Imagine for a moment a world without art, without dance, opera, literature, poetry. That world would be a very, very dull place.
Today on the show, we have cybersecurity expert, comic book publisher, and writer Rich Perez from Tango Comics. And he's here to talk about his experiences working in the cybersecurity field, as well as his long history publishing comic books, graphic novels, and his new project, The Infinium 2, The Journey Home. Rich, thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you, Jimmy. It's a pleasure to be here. Always good to hang out with my buddy.
Oh, absolutely. And I've, I don't know, just to give folks full disclosure, I've known Rich for a number of years now, going way back. I don't know, probably about like 5 or 6 at this point.
Yeah. We met at what, DanCon?
I want to say so. Yeah, that was it was a long time ago. I remember that was the one that was, it was super packed, but it was also really cold and it was really snowy.
Yeah, that was, that was definitely DanCon because they always had it like in the spring.
Yeah. I want to say that was the last good DanCon I went to, because I mean, I feel like the whole con market just kind of teetered out at that point.
Yeah, there was too many shows and too many events, and it's just, it reached kind of a saturation point, unfortunately. But yeah, you're right. It's media blitzing.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's like, I don't know, something that's going on with events overall, whether it is going to be, comic conventions, whether it's music festivals, whether it's live music events, I mean, really any sort of live event.
Mm-hmm.
They were just at, they were at the top of that bubble before COVID came and just sent everything popping down. And, I mean, you look at the amount of events that were occurring. There were so many different ones competing against each other, really in regions that aren't that big. So, I mean, it was only going to be a matter of time before something came and kind of took down a lot of the live events in the area.
Yeah, we knew something was going to cause it to implode. We just didn't foresee a pandemic, right?
Right. Well, I don't think anybody foresaw that besides China.
But yeah, that kind of helped level set the playing field. Now there's nothing. There is no scene right now. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and well, looking at just kind of how the conventions, how people all came together and just tried to combat what was going on with COVID, still be there for each other.
Yeah.
You had a lot of the virtual Comic Cons, and you were having similar like this, where you'd have like Zoom meetings with creators who would kind of pitch their book and talk to people over chat. So there has been, quite a great response from fans that still want to help creators, but a lot of creators without the con season, they're just kneecapped right off the bat. So they don't have the ability to.
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry to cut you off, man. I was just going to say, for a lot of people who are, this is their bread and butter by day, man. This is their day job. I don't, my heart goes out to them, because again, they're shit out of luck right now. I don't know how else to put it, man. It's just, I mean, I hope to see them again soon, but when I think about these folks and a lot of some of the older folks who've been doing this for 30, 40 years, and all of a sudden this happens. It's like, now what? Now they got to kind of reinvent themselves on a platform, a virtual platform they may not even have any insight on. So it's going to be a challenge, Hopefully we can get out of it soon.
Yeah, particularly some of the older creators as well that don't really get on social media a lot.
Not tech savvy or anything like that, and probably don't want to be at this point. They were getting ready to be in retirement mode.
Right. Most of the time, if you're one of those old school creators, you're just dealing with, one booking agent that usually handles all that stuff for you. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how the comics market and the con market just kind of rebound from this, because I have the feeling you're going to see a lot of You're going to see a lot less events, but you're going to see a lot of small events. Whichever ones do survive get a lot bigger because, man, next year people are going to be ready to get out.
Yeah, that's it. That's just it. I mean, there's going to be a gun shyness, there's going to be some trepidation about doing it. So, again, there'll be 1 foot in the water, 1 foot out. There's a lot of people who, not going to be comfortable coming out of their houses for these kind of things. I don't blame them. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, understand there's a lot of people who are dying to get that audience back, but it's, it'll happen. It's just going to take a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we had also talked about it as well, just the entire comics industry right before this happened. I mean, comics have been on the decline for a while, and it seems to be just more the people are interested in the intellectual properties themselves, the characters, as opposed to, the stories that they appear in.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there's, especially industry wide that you're seeing with the big three, there's a lot of rinse and repeat. And, again, you're not going to see much, originality coming out of these guys. They're all guarded assets at this point. It's used to be where comics used to drive film. Now it's film driving comics. And there's, I don't know, I'm not trying to beat up on them, but there's a sense of insincerity with it that I'm picking up on in that kind of model. And, again, for the folks who are not, been in the comic scene, it's no big deal. For those been in the comic scene, it's like, oh, it's kind of sad. It's kind of gross, so it's kind of disingenuous. So, but, in any event, it's out there, it's popular, it's mainstream, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, I feel like that comes with, just kind of the geeks ended up winning the culture war in that regards against the jocks. So everything that was geek culture 30 years ago is now mainstream and people love it. Superhero,
Yeah.
big one. Computer programming, coding, stuff like that being another. But, it's really interesting because you kind of have a foot in both worlds.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So it's kind of, it is Revenge of the Nerds for real. You're right. So it's like they took over the world and it's like, hey, we promised a better place, but it's still kind of messed up. What's going on here? So, but yeah, I mean, in the tech field, oh man, yeah, it's evolved kind of, considerably. And it's nice to see, that dependency, on technology. But, again, I never imagined it would be used in this, to this fashion, which is cool and a little unsettling too, right? So it's everybody's taking it to the nth degree, especially with mobile technologies and so on. But again, crimes remain the same, and we've got to get ourselves, tuned to the approaches that are taken on, even in the digital world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like we're entering that. I can't even say that we're entering it. We've been in a data race for a while, and everybody's trying to snag up as much data as we can, not only to sell you ads, but eventually for the AI war that's going to be coming about 20 years from now.
Oh, yeah.
They're laying down that data infrastructure, and that's one of the reasons why I like to talk with you because being a cybersecurity expert, you have an insider view of what we can do to try and protect our data and try and be responsible citizens living in this cyber age.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on right now, Jimmy, and I'll tell you, it's now more than ever. The threat vector has become super strong. I mean, right now we're looking at, healthcare industry being, bombarded not only from a COVID perspective, but they're also the prime target for cyber attacks and ransomware. And people died. That's the one thing that, it's starting to reveal is that these devices and the networks are being on, they're getting compromised and it's impacting life-sustaining systems. And it happened in Germany and it's starting to happen here and it's scary, because these guys, all they're interested in money, they don't give a damn about the human factor of it.
Well, and that's terrifying to think of as well because you think of like 10 years from now, right after COVID's run its course, how much more common respirators are going to be, and
Oh yeah,
with respirators that are on these Bluetooth networks. I mean, you can see those just being taken over and turned off.
Yeah, and it's scary. And hate to pick on healthcare as an example, but not that they, they have all this high tech gear, but oftentimes, to their credit and discredit, they hire from within
Hmm.
and they bring people up, but they're not, oftentimes the very people who are supporting that infrastructure, they don't have the best practices in mind. They've never been trained. And again, they've come from the medical side of the field, they getting immersed in technology, having to reorient themselves. Again, their primary goal is get, to sustain things. Not oftentimes do they have the luxury of improving upon them too. So, and it's not of interest to a lot of these organizations. And unfortunately, now that they've been hit and slammed and rendered inoperative, they're going to start thinking probably a bit differently on their approach.
Yeah, I mean, you'd mentioned reorienting, and I feel that with everything advancing as fast as it is, that we're in a constant state of reorienting and getting caught up in
Oh
the realm
yeah,
of cybersecurity because, I mean, the black hats, they're always coming up with new innovative ways to get past what you've put up in place to stop them.
yeah. And the prime targets are mobile devices. People are putting everything and anything on their mobile devices. They've got, they're doing their NFC payments through Google Pay or through Apple, what have you. And guess what, man? That's becoming. You put all your eggs in one basket. You make it easy for the fox to steal from the hen house, and that's exactly what's going on here too. So you know, there's going to be a mass exploitation if we don't get our act together soon on the mobile platform. We've already seen the disruption of service in March, April, with Verizon taking the lead. But now healthcare is getting slammed. Government starting just recently confirmed being compromised to a degree, although they won't talk in great detail about it. So everybody's taking a hit, and it's classic example, Jimmy, where people always want flood insurance after they've been flooded. So there's
Right.
no precautionary notes. There's no forward thinking because it's just simply not a priority.
And I don't understand how that's not a priority because I get it. I watched the Mark Zuckerberg when he was in front of Senate. Our lawmakers have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, not even a little bit, and they can't even comprehend what's going on in a lot of these regards. But I mean, is it a fail of the regulatory state that we haven't kept up on this?
Yeah, it's a little bit of that. I mean, but you've got a cultural divide too. That's like, hey, we're going to put in all this legislation to protect your privacy, but here are these same people giving away all their information, taking selfies every 3 minutes. Again, for the unindoctrinated, you're helping a criminal or someone far more fiendish build a hell of a profile on you. And that terrifies me because, again, you're making yourself easy prey. I mean, these folks are chumming the waters every single day and not even realizing how close the great white sharks are swimming by them. And again, it's not a big deal. It's always going to happen to somebody else. But when it happens to you, it's going to take 7 to 8 years to recover your identity after that.
Right.
And and some people just resort to changing their names because again, it's just they've been so corrupted that there's almost practically no way out. And again, it's one of the things that people are doing right now to kind of remedy it, but they're not really remedying it. They're working around it. They're kind of stepping around the situation than actually trying to solve it.
So when they say that they're building profiles on you, are we talking about like information profiles, like they can open credit cards, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, they're building profiles because, for example, things that you say, things that you do, places that you visit. Well, again, they're building a catalog of words for one. So that's going to be your own little personal dictionary when they brute force your account. They'll use your logistics against you. They'll use your pet names because, again, people are, take the cute way of, identifying themselves with things that they know and have around them. So again, they make themselves really easy picking because again, there's a level of predictability just based on the information that you share that you then reuse and apply in a almost semi-private manner, but it really isn't private when you think about it.
Right. Well, I mean, I noticed that there was a trend, I don't know, a couple years ago when like everybody I knew over the age of probably like 60 who that was on social media, I started noticing that they started having multiple accounts created in their names, right? So it'd be like one or two of their pictures, and then it would be, basically all the info that they could probably get from their Facebook profile. And I'd get a friend request, and I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe they just forgot their password. So I'd kind of like watch that account, and then I'd get another friend request from the same person under a different account, just with a
Yeah.
different picture. So it sounds like there really are, if I'm understanding you, there sounds like they're just building these data profiles so they can create bots that are programmed to behave like you.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. And those same things again, work in confidence against other people, and they just keep, accumulating these profiles. And again, one of the greatest things is those chain letters or chain messages. Hey, I bet you I can't get, a like, or if I can't get it shared just based on this. And again,
Right.
you're revealing something based on your actions. And again, for most people, it's like, hey, what's the harm in that? Do it 1,000 times, and guess what? You're going to start showing a little level of predictability along with that. And you're going to shoestring yourself to, eventually revealing, a lot more information about yourself than you wanted to.
Right. Well, I mean, particularly when they can, run them through these algorithms looking for things that, we might not, we might not think anybody would be interested in. Like I was watching, I forget the name of it, but I watched that documentary that came out about Cambridge Analytica, and
Mhm.
just how they utilized all these different quizzes that really had nothing to do with each other. They're just basic personality quizzes,
Yeah.
and how they use that to create these profiles, and then how they ran it through to identify, I want to say it was like 270 specific like traits they were looking for, behavior and personality wise. So it's man, it's like cyber psychology. It's insane.
It is a lot of psychology to it. And again, you're baiting yourself all the time and not even realizing it. So, I mean, if you look, for example, at my, whatever social media profile I have that I've shared with people, you're going to get only so much information ever, and it's pretty much purposely jailed because, again, it's my job to be paranoid, but more so, uh, given my role and what I do for a living, boy, it would be great to, to topple and expunge someone like myself, and take away a lot of credibility on my part. So again, I'm overly cautious in that sense too. And there'd be nothing more wonderful than taking down a guy who wrote a book on social media security, right, and obliterating their profile and humiliating them. So I'm gonna always be on my guard, and hopefully I never get compromised. But it can never, you never can tell in these circumstances. It only takes one event.
Right. Right. And this will be a good time for you to plug that book.
Oh, the seven deadly social media sins by Singris. Yeah, man, I did that book a while ago. It's kind of funny, and at first I was like, man, nobody's gonna. There's not much value in this book. I did it as kind of a favor to a friend of mine who was contractually obligated and fell behind the schedule. He's like, I need help, man. I need help. And I'm like, all right. So I backed him up, and then he departed off to the UK while I had to write all the damn chapters. Yeah, he left me holding the bag. That was, but it was a good experience all the same. He reciprocated. He bought me a nice bottle of whiskey.
There you go. So
Yeah.
then I got to ask you then, what are the seven deadly sins that people do on social media, and what would I don't know, what new ones would you add to that?
Oh man. So again, everything that we've touched on so far is part of that. I think one of the bigger things that people do that really kind of work against their undoing, and it's obvious, it's getting emotionally invested, and letting people get your goat, and getting bullied, and so on. But it's funny because there's a technique by these individuals to try and harass you, then make you mad, and then make you tail them while they're already tailing you.
Right.
So, so again, it's a classic tale. You're getting bullied, but after a while, you don't even realize that you're baiting yourself just based on your responses, and again, your continual threads. It's just, there's a lot of emotional immaturity out there, especially in social media, and people prey on other people as a result, and they get off on bullying folks, and that's one of the more common things, again, and it's part of the reveal. You self bait yourself by providing what you dislike and what you like all the time. And again, that kind of makes you an easy target for people who want to kind of flail on you there.
Yeah, I never really understood cyberbullying because I don't know, back in my day, like you had to bully someone to their face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, well, you're a real badass behind the keyboard that you're
Yeah,
just
that's
eating
what I'm
Cheetos
saying.
laying on your ass. But, it's one of those things. But a lot of folks don't see it that way. And a lot of the younger generation, like, well, this is a primary method of communication, and they've been kind of, they've been in this virtual box for, as long as they can remember. So it's everything to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing that I've noticed, and I'm a millennial, so I would even say it's not even a shift between like millennial and like Gen Z, but
Hmm.
it's a shift between like the older millennials and the younger millennials is that, the guy is like me who are born in the 80s and can still remember it.
Yeah.
When I go on the internet, I still think of it as I'm going on the internet.
Yeah.
I'm going onto a place. I'm going onto a thing. My profile isn't me. It's not real life. It's just a
Yeah.
profile. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
But
Not
you
avatar.
yeah, but you get to someone who's on the other side of the millennial generation. Someone in like their early to mid 20s, like they incorporate that into their identity, and then Gen Z, it's even more so. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's almost like a bad episode of Black Mirror. People believe that social media is real life, and it isn't. It's just a website. None of
Yeah.
that pertains to what you're. Well, I mean, I can't say nothing on social media pertains to your real life. Some people do have employers and shit that'll check their social media accounts. I don't want to overlook anything like
Oh,
that.
hell yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like if these foul players, as we were talking earlier, have these, or are building these data psych profiles on us, and then they can program bots with what they know will get our goat to engage with us. I mean,
Mhm.
they're just they're just edging us on into engaging in that behavior pattern that they want us to display.
Yeah. You bet. Exactly. And it's just a lot of baiting. It's you'll see it whether it's based on I guess it's all the aspects. So it's just based on appearance. There's baiting with that. There's baiting on race. There's baiting on gender. A lot of these guys, a lot of these folks out there, they're trying to draw in the flies to the candy here, and it works pretty effectively. And again, some people are just ranting, but there's other people who have what I would call other motives in mind, with those tactics that they do.
Right. Well, I feel like a lot of like the outrage in our culture right now. I wonder how much of that is just programmed into that because I don't know. I feel like a lot of the media and the news that we get
Mhm.
nowadays is just responding to what's occurring on Twitter and what's trending. But what's trending and what's going on Twitter isn't necessarily real because Twitter has all sorts of bots that cause things to trend based on whatever they want them to.
Mhm.
Um, so I wonder how much of this outrage culture that we're really having right now is actually authentic.
Well, I mean, this is hard to back up, and it's going to sound anecdotal, but a lot of society is being played right now. They don't even realize it. Okay, there are actors out there that are playing a game, and keeping people diverted for, for various reasons, and keeping them active and hostile. And part of the reason is it's all about control.
Right.
If I can keep you mad, I can keep you artificially outraged. If I can keep you artificially following trends, um, well, that keeps you diverted from other things, right? It keeps your eyes and your ears in one direction, and other activities can occur. So I don't want to sound overly paranoid about it, but again, you know, that's a classic example of of intelligence working against people. I mean, the spy ring has been working on this for years, Jimmy, and this type of social engineering is classic. They've been working people, whether it's by newspaper or now by social forums, that we're seeing in social media. I mean, the game, it's nothing new. It's just a bit more effective because a lot more people are on
Right.
it, and we're more linked to one another with respect to that same information, which is a little bit different from how it was, 40, 50 years ago, right? And then our words were our exchange. That was more direct, but now it's indirect. Okay, you're leveraging a fourth dimensional platform in which to get people engaged and collaborative in that fashion, and oftentimes it's geared and oftentimes in the wrong direction, and they don't even realize it. It's really kind of sad, but it's I hate I keep stressing this, but people are getting played.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you can control someone's outrage and you can control someone's emotional response, by that response, you can control their narrative, right?
Yeah,
You can,
all their triggers.
yeah. And once you know all their triggers, it's easy to play someone. But it's the thing that, I just find amazing is how they're able to not only realize the triggers of an individual person, but realize the pattern of triggers within a certain subculture or within a larger society that allows them to have a mass effect.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, and you've seen this in other countries where people have, again, protested in mass and so on throughout the years, and they've used things like Twitter and low bandwidth solutions like Twitter to gather and plan and scheme and so on. But in reality, those people who were, especially in other countries like, for example, the Middle East,
Mhm.
they were far more effective out there with their methods than people that have been for the most part here.
Yeah.
So there's a little difference there with that, because again, there's a little more, how do I put it, genuine struggle in those countries in contrast to ours, and I'm not trying to belittle, our circumstances by any means, but by far, if you compare the two, if you compare police brutality, let's say in like South America compared to here,
Mhm.
shit, it's like night and day. You don't call the police. You never have. You don't
Right.
trust them, and now they're like, here, the U.S. is complaining about police brutality. Are you kidding me? Have you gone to Russia? So they'll kick your ass for looking at them cross-eyed,
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
think,
excusing it. I'm just saying we're, by far, we've got a little bit easier than, neighboring nations.
well, I feel like a lot of that, just I feel like a lot of the outrage towards police, isn't necessarily just the police brutality, but it's just been 30, 40 years in the making of a slow militarizing of the police, a slow privatization of prisons. You see how the drug war has been used to, suppress certain social movements.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's just a mass protest over what it could be, because one thing that the last few years and this pandemic I feel has really done for American society is that
Mm.
it's kind of ripped off the Band-Aid, and we actually see how fragile our institutions really are. And
Yeah.
I mean, respond to that fragility and how we try to reform things, over the next 2 decades are going to be of detrimental importance. And one of the first things that we need to do is we need to revamp how we collect data in this country, what we allow to be used, because I know Illinois has some stricter laws as far as like, biometric data and stuff like that.
Right.
But there are some, there are some states where there's almost no protections for biometric data.
Yeah. There's it is kind of uneven in that space, and the only way to solve for that is to make it at the federal level. But shit, I mean, you don't want that. Trust me, you don't want them arbitrarily deciding at a federal level what's okay from a biometric standpoint, because that means your heat signature, your facial geometries, your hand
Oh yeah.
geometries, all that interesting stuff that a lot of people don't understand can be maintained. I mean, that's better than fingerprints in some ways, I'll tell you. And if we do have to think about that long term, how to manage that information better, more importantly, how to expunge it, because nobody's thinking about that. But yeah, it's, circling back on the whole police matter too. Yeah, there's, culturally, we're starting to realize, in some ways, yeah, there's a lot of good cops, but there's also a lot of bad ones. And sometimes it's just viewed as another gang, and that's got to change, and our engagement model socially in terms of how we wish to criminalize people, we're going to have to revisit, because again, it's not working.
Yeah, it's definitely not working. When you have what I think I was watching a documentary. They said we had 10% of the world's population, but over 60% of the world's prison population.
Yeah.
And I feel that just comes with the money influencing the system, because
That is the reason.
when you have a privatized prison, that they're going to, one, if you're a corporation and you have the lobbying power to influence laws to make nonviolent crimes, give you longer sentences, because if you're in the prison business, you want to have nonviolent offenders that you can keep there as long as possible, because they're going to give you the least amount of like negative events, fights, stuff like that. So they're kind of like geared the system to try and trap these people for these nonviolent drug offenses. And I don't know. I don't believe that. I don't believe victimless crime should be given mandatory minimums.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's that has to be revisited. Our methods of hate crimes is kind of skewed. Our methods of sexual predators is kind of skewed. I mean, it's always with the best intentions, but the application of it is oftentimes we find is piss poor.
Right.
And it's easy to fall through the cracks and be categorized as something that you potentially are not. And there's no way to dig yourself out of it thereafter. So again, it's always with the best intentions. It's just we leave it to legislation to decide what's best for us. And that's moronic in itself, because again, they're not, if they happen to do something for our benefit, it's more incidental or accidental than actually something that's going to give us a direct benefit.
Yeah, well, it goes back to building those profiles, right?
Yeah.
You have this justice system that, like you were saying, it built a profile on you, and then it digs you into a hole that it's hard for you to get out of.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about, that same system being amped up in the next 20 years with all this data that, right now corporations are being able to use it, but there's going to come a time when your local law enforcement is going to have access to all of that as well. And that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, and to some degree, some of that information is, it is attainable, but it's not as fluid as you might think. But still, it's just a matter of time before it becomes more fluid. Again, first things, any police officer is going to do, they're going to go to your social media. They're going to look at your phone, and then they're going to look at social media, and they will build a profile in rapid fire. Okay, or they'll, they may have a profile that they can tap into that to begin with.
Right. So they just like buy the rights from some third party that's already got that information on you.
Yeah, or people are just so damn dumb that they just have their profile open to the public by default, so they're just an open door.
Oh, no.
So that's usually, oftentimes, the path of least resistance is, it's like, well, I didn't know I could lock him down.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have taken that picture holding that gun, but that preys on the, on our vanities.
Man, could you imagine what politics is going to be like 20 years from now? Like people think politics is bad now. Just wait until Gen Z are the one running for office, and every Twitter rant, every time they called someone a Nazi, every time someone was called a libtard, all of that stuff is going to be available, and people are pulling stuff up left and right. I mean, I think our media cycles are crazy now. I just can't even imagine what it's going to be like then.
Oh, just imagine by that time they're going to be digging up stuff that you said and posted when you were 8 years old. It's like you didn't even hit puberty yet, and they're going to hold shit against you. Like, are you kidding me? But that's our society, man. We like to build people up, but we like to trample them more. So, or we build them up, then trample them, and then build them up again so we feel good.
Yeah, it reminds me of that South Park episode with, I want to say it was Britney Spears.
Yeah.
Where they build her up just to sacrifice her for the harvest.
Yeah, leave it to South Park with their social observations, man. They said it best. It was like, well, if you're going to kill somebody, make sure it's somebody your own race. Otherwise, it's a hate crime. I was just like, oh, man, that's bad. There's a bitter truth to it, but it's like, yeah, it's funny, but it's, it kind of stings.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. South Park, that's the one show that, they have their high points and their low points, but over the course of it, as it's gone on, it's just gotten better. They've gotten more astute with their observations, and sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss, but when they hit, they hit.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That episode that they did, I want to say it was the one about Disney in China.
Oh. Oh man, that one in the human centipede, I'll remember. Oh, those guys, yeah, they're cutthroat. But that's the beautiful thing about parody, man. They can make fun of anything and give you some observational humor to go along with it. Makes you think.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I don't know, it gives you an appreciation for it as well, because those guys have been working on that same project, it's been their baby for almost 30 years now.
Yeah, exactly.
And they jump off every now and again, to do, side projects, Team America or the Book of Mormon. But that's always been their consistent form of expression. And man, Trey and Matt have a way of just taking down American society with just the best of wit, but it just cuts straight to the bone sometimes,
Yeah, exactly. Their social awareness is fantastic. It's very sober, and it helps you. Hate to say it, but their observations help you keep a sober view of reality sometimes. And it's like, oh, you're talking about a cartoon here. That's really a nasty cartoon. Yeah, but these guys are spot on, man. They get it, and it's much to our chagrin, right? They point out things about us that we may not like, but it is funny when they point it out. They do it in a very clever way.
Yeah. The one thing, and I know that one reason the left hates them so much is that they're able to make certain stereotypes just seem fresh, whether racial stereotype or some sort of subgroup or subculture. Like, they have a way to make it fresh and make it pertinent to what's going on.
Mm-hmm. They do it, and they do it just beautifully. I mean, they just cut right through the veil of bullshit and get right to it,
Did you see the Broncos game where they actually had all the big wooden painted cutouts of the entire town of South Park in the stands?
No, I did not see that. Really?
I haven't been watching much sports since this all started, but Yeah, but well, I noticed it with the baseball games first, and then football teams started doing it. But yeah, the last Broncos game, they had every character that ever appeared on South Park cut out and probably on like some, some plaster or some wood, and
Huh.
printed over them in the stands. And like, I mean, that show's so expansive that like every second seat or every other seat, they had someone there, and it almost filled up the entire bottom half.
Oh, that's hilarious. You think they could use some kind of green screen board or something like that and put whatever they want, in those circumstances. But that would be complicated. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool too, though.
Oh man, if it was
I
me,
gotta pay more attention to that.
dude, I would just be cutting in like I don't know, random footage from like games from the mid '90s, just like crowd shots. Just because
Yeah,
it's not gonna work whatsoever, but that's kind of the humor in it. You know what I mean?
yeah, you could definitely. Yeah, you can have some fun out of this. Take advantage of the moment.
Uh,
Green
you
screen
know,
the whole thing.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Since COVID kind of hit, like just watching, like well, we were talking about, watching live events, kind of rebound. Watching certain sports and like live TV kind of rebound is interesting too, because
Yeah.
like look at, man, I was watching professional wrestling without a crowd,
Mhm.
and dear Lord, it looks like they're doing some sort of bizarre Dada inspired interpretive dance. Like it makes no sense because you don't have like that, you don't have that feel that they're actually fighting, because the crowd and the energy is not into it. It just
Yeah,
looks like weird interpretive art.
they're just going through the motions. Yeah, man. Oh man, I have not seen that yet, but it's almost. I almost don't want to. It'll take you out of it. And but I don't know. I mean, this is the way it's going to be for a little while.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. I guess it'll give a lot of those athletes or performers, the ability to kind of go back and kind of find their artistic integrity, because a lot of times, and this from like being at cons, like and being on, when you're sitting
Yeah.
at a table and you're just on trying to sell books, trying to interact with people. Same thing with performers on stage, right? You go on for so long and you kind of like, I don't know, you kind of become fatigued from it. So I have a lot of hopes that, when these, when live TV sports shows come back, they're
Mhm.
going to have, I don't know, a new perspective to kind of go off of.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, because without the fans, they're going to have to to your point, they're going to have to concentrate on on themselves and their capabilities and so on. And maybe it's a little less distracting. Maybe it's again, maybe it's some of that energy levels robbed from them from getting from the fandom being absent. I don't know. It's changing everybody and their everything we do. And I don't know. It's people are still interested in it, and that's a great thing. But yeah, it's still unnerving to see crowdless stadiums right now, and it just it's like, man, what the hell's the point?
Yeah.
But it's to make
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, and I feel like, well, I mean, I don't know. We were talking about, all these creators that are going to be hurting, and that's the one thing I will say is I feel like you're like the John Mayer of comic books, right? John Mayer, he like phenomenal blues guitarist. Like I will give that man all the props. That John Mayer Trio CD he did was, or that John Mayer Trio album, I should say, is a
No,
phenomenal piece of work. But he
for
came
sure.
in and he just kind of sold out and made as much money as he could. And then he found his integrity. Similar to you, you went out of your way to find a career before you got into comics, before you started taking that creative route. So, you've never really been, that starving artist type. And it gives you a greater perspective, I think.
Well, again, I got in, late in the game. I've always had a love and a passion for, for storytelling, science fiction, and comics. It's been, something I was, corn-fed on as I was a kid and grew up on it. And, it's part of me. It's part of my DNA. But at the same time, it's like I, I don't see myself in any way, shape, or form as an artist. I'm just not. I'll just say it flatly. I'm not that pretentious. And I just don't have any desire to be so, because otherwise, if I look at it that way, it robs me of some of the fun that I'm having, you know. And I'm here for the thrill of it, and you know, the entertainment factor. So I'll consider myself an entertainer before I consider myself an artist, because again, the objectives are real clear in that sense, because I'm doing it for somebody else.
Right.
And
I mean,
that's,
that is like such an anti-writer thing to say, because most like writers you meet, and I don't want to say just comic book writers, but
Mhm.
most writers tend to be that pretentious kind of like, you know, brooding artistic type that takes their work way too seriously. And I mean, particularly if you're working in like the comics field, man, you're writing funny books. Have some fucking fun with it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, this is your medium. This is your canvas. Enjoy yourself. You know, get something. And again, the artistry in that. If you're hyper focused on it, you're not going to enjoy yourself. And you'll only wait for the feedback of others. Now, first, do it for yourself, entertain yourself, and then bring others along for the ride, man. That's half the fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I've never, again, never over glorified, whatever I've written. I'm not in love with my words, but I do enjoy a good story all the same, and again, I'm, cycling that through, with other people saying, hey, what's your thought of this? What's your thought of that? So I'm always, how do I put it? I'm sampling it out before I actually even write it. So I'm just taking the ideas, saying, hey, here's my angle. What do you think of this? And, if I can get them, to kind of like veer off and their eyes wander, then I'm into something, because I know I've tapped into their brain and their imagination. I'm like, okay, they're starting to enjoy it too.
All
So
right.
that's oftentimes my goal when I actually write, is really kind of throw people off, but at the same time, give them, a form of escapism and a form of entertainment. And hopefully make them laugh a little bit. Shit, we can't get people enough laughter in the world right now.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. People need a break from the outrage. I feel like
Yeah.
everyone's outrage meter is just ran on empty for like the past year and a half. And I mean, I feel that there's just this general angst in the air, which I mean definitely comes from the uncertainty,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
absolutely.
this is a once in a generation pandemic, and I mean, gosh, hopefully a once in a generation depression that we're going to go through. Uh, but with that uncertainty, people are
Mhm.
going to be stressed, and that's the importance of storytelling. That's the importance of writing, right? To give people that escape from their lives.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the beauty of comics as well, because the characters, they're always so fantastical, right?
Hmm.
They always stand for these ideals, and really, I mean, in times of uncertainty, we're all looking for a hero.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So there's, you know, you need that moral fiber, that moral grounding. You need something to look up to. And I think that's, part of the problem, that we're oftentimes seeing. It's like, oh, I want somebody I can relate to.
Right.
Well, if you're no good and you relate to them, then more than likely they're no good either, right? So, well, what's the point of that? I mean, so, I like the heroes that you can't relate to, or the ones that you want to aspire into.
Right.
And again, I think society-wise, we kind of lost a little sight of that, and that's too bad, because, without the aspirations, how do you dream really? Because if everybody's grounded and it's in reality, where's the fun of that? Where's the escape? I want something otherworldly. I want something fantastic. I want something off the chains bizarre, So that's what I look for in things. I don't want them close to me. Shit, reality hurts enough as it is. I want to be out of it, and I want a story to take me out of this world and help me forget for things, once in a while. And if again, it's just a mental roller coaster ride at the end of the day. You don't want to be cheated.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's the well, I don't know. It's funny to watch like the evolution of superheroes, because when you look at Superman, for example,
Mhm.
like when Superman was first introduced, like he was solving real world problems. He was going
Mhm.
after, corrupt politicians or the Klan, or
Yeah.
like simple bank robbers, mobsters, stuff like that. And as people identified with him, he gets more fantastical as he goes along, and I feel like that is that's where superheroes resonate with people. Is like you love the fantasy of like of someone being able to show up and save you from whatever is plaguing you in your life.
Yep. And you wanted to do it simply because, in our lives, things are always so complicated. But, hey, here comes the superhero. They step in, they stop the bullets with their chest, they bend that gun, they sock the guy with one hand, and, problem solved, right? So, well, hell, we could do that, right? But it sure is nice if it happens, especially in guarding us. It's a dream come true. So yeah, that's those classic '50s Supermans is where you see stuff like that. And yeah, you're right. He was very grounded. Hell, he didn't even fly back then. He was leaping around like the Hulk.
Yeah.
So that's
Single bound.
yeah, exactly. So that was pretty cool. I didn't really understand that at first, but yeah, he's just literally leaping, from spot to spot. And I think in that recent book where Superman fights the Ku Klux Klan, he's like riding on top of electrical wires. So I'm
Yeah.
getting across. Yeah. So I
Oh,
thought that
really?
was pretty
So
cool.
like a static shock kind of a moment.
Yeah. So he's like leveraging that almost, like a hyper fast balancing act and walking across those wires. And yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. He's almost like, one of those cable cars, so he's running instead of below it, he's above it, just
Yeah.
scooting all the way across. So I thought that was pretty imaginative because again, I'm so used to him flying that I was like, okay, here's the way that he's getting around without hitting cars and stuff like that. And he's above it all.
So I guess let me ask you, when you were a kid then, and yeah, I know you said that, you kind of geared towards the fantastical stuff that would kind of take you away. Which
Mhm.
which character really resonated with you as a kid?
Oh man, I mean, without a doubt, you had your Superman, you had your Spider-Man. I adored the Hulk and the Fantastic Four. I really got a kick out of Captain Marvel, though. I mean, that guy was something else. It was kind of a weird comic, though, but he was also, you know, he was very grounded. He had these powers of a god, and he was very grounded at the same time because at the end of the day, you know, Superman just put on a pair of glasses and became Clark Kent. For this guy, originates as a child, and it's his innocence, his nobility of a child is what carries him as a hero. And I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't totally get it back then, but growing up, I realized there was really something unique and different about him. But again, same thing with Spider-Man. Spider-Man was uber responsible with everything and anything that he did. I mean, he was the most thoughtful human being I could ever imagine. It was like this guy placed other people always first before himself. And that's a measure of integrity. That's just you can only read about, I guess. Again, this is what I grew up on, and just like these are your role models here, if you will. You didn't find out that they were date raping anybody or anything.
Right.
I'm glad. It's not like they twisted them, and then all of a sudden, my heroes are now villains. Now they've remained heroes, thank goodness. Can't always relate to them, but still, they pretty much stayed form.
Yeah, and I feel like with Shazam, or the original Captain Marvel, for folks who aren't aware that that character was the original Captain Marvel. um it kind of takes that childhood fantasy, right? The
Oh
naivety of
yeah,
being a child, the innocence of being a child, and then giving that kind of a kid the ability to do anything, and it really brings that kind of simplistic morals with it, right?
hmm
Same with Spider-Man. Spider-Man, he was a young kid who got these powers. And really, if you're, looking at the story of Spider-Man philosophically, you're looking at the story of American exceptionalism, right?
yeah,
The idea that if you have the ability to address this situation, you have the responsibility to address the situation, which, I mean, it's definitely, an after World War II kind of view of, of how America should, take the leadership role in the world, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of philosophy, I mean, it really goes a long way. Though, and it's, I mean, looking at it, what, 60, 70 years after the fact now, I
Yeah.
mean, definitely, almost a very naive way to look at that. If you have the ability to do something, it doesn't necessarily mean you should do something, depending on how you would address that situation.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, it's not, there's a degree of unreality with it, being absolutely accountable for your actions and others. That's unheard of, and, but again, it's not to say that we can't aspire to something to that level. I mean, it would, shit, if we all could do that, it'd probably be a lot better society that we have, because again, we wouldn't be using scapegoats all the time. We'd first own it,
Yeah.
before blaming others. That would change the paradigm altogether.
Yeah.
But again, that's the dreamer's view, of looking through the lens of the rose-colored sunglasses of superheroes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Superheroes, I idealize they are, the best facets of our society, right?
Hmm.
I feel like that's where comic books really fell off, was when they started to deconstruct that, which, a lot of people look at as one of the best, eras of comic books. And it was for,
Hmm.
a couple of years in the late 80s and the early 90s,
Oh
with
yeah.
kind of gritty interpretation and deconstructionist view of these superheroes. I mean, it really just stuck around, and that's where I came into it, and I
Mhm.
found my way into superheroes, through like the Fox Kids cartoons in the morning, right?
Oh yeah.
And Spider-Man, Batman, the animated series,
Those are
and
great. That's a great way to grow up, man.
yeah, I guess getting back to my point, it was at that time when comics had that hard shift towards adult audiences,
Yeah.
and it's hard to find kid-friendly books. That's why I ended up reading a lot of the old stuff,
Mhm.
those big published, black and white, like 60s
Yeah.
Spider-Man and the old Fantastic Fours, Avengers, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And again, he just kind of roped you in. He just wanted to learn more, and anything that kind of gets you to read isn't a bad thing, because it triggers the imagination, and that's the beauty of reading, and comic books included. They're like, oh, but that's not really reading. If you're reading words, you're reading,
Yeah.
so whether it's 1,000 words or just 20, it doesn't matter. You're reading, and you're working a different part of your brain. And again, it's a bit of a tonic, for the soul after a while. And reading's, like I said, I'm can't stress enough about the importance of reading, man. But again, that's part of the reason how I read so much when I was a kid. It was 70% comic books.
Yeah, I've gone on the record and said this, and I'll go ahead and say it again. I would not know how to read right now if it wasn't for comic books, because when I was a kid, it was hard to get me to read anything. I definitely had undiagnosed ADHD, so it was hard to keep my attention on anything school related. And plus, I went to a parochial school too, so half the time I'm like, man, you want to tell me these Bible stories you want me to read? Now, let me show you some other stories about some superpowered individuals. So yeah, I wouldn't have learned how to read if it wasn't for comic books, and I definitely, uh, I definitely wouldn't have, developed the kind of moral compass that I have right now if it wasn't for comic books.
No doubt, Jimmy. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I wouldn't have half the vocabulary I have if it wasn't for comics. It's like, well, what the hell does that word mean? And back in that time, and I'm dating myself, shit, I couldn't look it up on the internet and instantly get my gratification. I had to grab another book and look it up, it's using a damn dictionary. So either way, I was just like, you were proud that you found out what that word was. There was a sense of discovery and revelation with it, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to use that word. It's fancy, it'll startle people, But yeah, that's how it starts, and you're trying to word dazzle people.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like that's maybe one of the reasons why Excelsior became such a thing, right? He just wanted to razzle dazzle people.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'll give Stanley props to to the very end. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have half the vocabulary that I have right now. That guy just gave it to me, but his word usage was, well, I mean, it was always, he had a headline writing style, and that was the beauty of Stan Lee. Everything was overly sensational, everything was hyper epic, and it was like, yeah, that's what you need out of a comic book, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's more than just the art. The words carry and it's like you memorize that kind of stuff. So yeah, I adored that writing style. You're not going to see it in much use anymore.
So I guess we'll kind of segue into your well, when you founded Tango Comics, what were some of the character traits of those superheroes that you wanted to focus on in developing your own characters?
Boy, I was always interested in the introspective character. So the one person, the characters that really looked into themselves, challenging themselves, questioning themselves. Like, am I doing the right thing? For those guys who hesitated before they took action, it was like, okay, before I do this, I really want to make sure that I do it right, or that people are out of harm's way before it happens. So, it was, it's they're still intrepid. It's just, there's a measure of wisdom that before they take action too. And those same characters oftentimes are easily outsmarting their villains before beating the hell out of them too. So you get the villain to beat themselves up after a while because they're being outsmarted and taking themselves out of the game by being hyper emotional at them and making them wanting to bloodlust after the hero. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, I guess that is also, the hero being able to exploit the weaknesses of the villain because most villains are egomaniacs
Yeah,
and narcissists. So, they're
absolutely.
easily triggered, similar to a lot of people online.
Oh yeah, they're easy targets, right? But but yeah, I mean, to go back to your question though, yeah, I was always gravitating towards those characters who really were introspective, who maybe in some cases were reluctant heroes.
Right.
They didn't go out there just for the fanfare. You know, they did it with some degree of reluctance, and I saw that within Miracle Man, which was kind of eye popping back in the day. But when he said those words, like, oh yeah, here it comes. It's gonna it's gonna solve some problems, but it's also gonna create some.
Right.
And that's what drove my interest for these characters because they're so multidimensional too. So yeah, I those were primarily my interest in characters like that. And again, there's a wide plethora of characters nowadays that are like that. They're the ones that are kind of like, am I good enough for this situation? Am I strong enough, or am I fast enough, or whatever it is? There's a degree of doubt that kind of hammers them down a little bit, and that's that's like most people.
Yeah. I feel that's what makes them relatable, though, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely does.
people struggle with self-doubt on a daily basis. People struggle with feelings of self-worth.
Hmm.
People struggle with, feelings of am I good enough? Do people care about me? And when you see a hero with the same kind of struggles, right, and you're able to relate with that hero,
Hmm.
it kind of I don't know. This is just for me personally. I
Hmm.
can I find that easier to turn into a cornerstone of strength, right? You look at like Spider-Man. I've never come from a wealthy family, right? Never really had money. Uh, Neither did Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Spider-Man was always broke. He was always working like a dead end job, or he was, working a side hustle besides the Daily Bugle, delivering pizzas, whatever the case may be.
yeah.
And, you know, being able to relate with a hero that has that, it really allows you to kind of realize what's within your power to control. And it really helps you, going off of Spider-Man, relate to how to take responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man by day was Peter Parker. He was a bit of an egghead. He loved his science projects. He was, the original forefront nerd next to Reed Richards in terms of being a superhero. So, and he had, you know, just a flurry of self-doubts as Peter Parker. He put on that mask, and that's a whole different story. He became somebody else. He was able to escape from himself.
Right.
And that was, you know, that was the beauty of seeing Spider-Man in action. When you saw his beautiful wit, you know, and all his capabilities, and you seen that intelligence being applied in a different way. And that was the great thing about it. When he threw on the mask, you're like, oh boy, here it comes. You know, you know, if he didn't insult you with words, you know, um, and again, it was part of the, you know, the psychological aspect of being in his enemies. He was getting in your head and get you off your game. And yeah, Spider-Man was spectacular at that spectacular Spider-Man, of course. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, it was one of the things that I always envied about that. Is like this guy he could dial it down, but he could also dial it up, and it was fun to see. I haven't read any of his comics in a while, but I'm sure they're still good. But I don't know. I've moved on.
Yeah, I can't say I've read anything Marvel's put out in probably the last 10 years. Like when the original Civil War ended, that was probably like one of the last big finale event that I read. Well, I mean, I read the Secret Wars when they did that a couple years back, where they
Yeah,
reintroduced the Secret Wars and just restart anyone. I feel like you have to read those if you're, a fan, just because it's one of those giant crossover events that just resets the chessboard.
yeah, and it killed off. I mean, it was their Crisis on Infinite Earths, if you think about it. So they used the Beyonder to kill that other universe that they had. What the heck was it called?
The Ultimate Universe.
The Ultimates. Yeah, so they were able to kind of put a pitchfork into the Ultimates after that, which is again, it was kind of clever. But then, you know, again, it was just another event after a while too. It's like, well,
Yeah, and
you know, and then, you know, 5, 6 years later, they forgot all about it, you know, and it's like, ah, shit, so much for continuity.
well, I guess that's a good segue. In is that the first comic that you did with Tango was Descent of the Dead, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So that was my fledgling comic, so that we introduced. It was, you know, back when zombies were, there was a resurgence thanks to George Romero and zombies and all that stuff. So yeah, that was just the right time to get that story out the door.
And well, I mean, yeah, that was the same time that Romero had come back after like what 30 years to do
Yeah,
a bunch of the Dead sequels, and then Walking Dead as well had just debuted on AMC. So I mean, I don't
yeah,
know, there's like a good 5-10 years there that zombies were just a craze, and
yeah.
I feel a lot of that has to do with both Shaun of the Dead as well as what was that one? 28 Days Later.
28 days later, and then stuff like Wreck, you know,
Yeah,
where you had these infected as opposed to zombies, but still it's the same premise. They run after you and tear you apart, you know, so that's scary stuff, you know. And yeah, that was the craze back then. And you know, the story that I wrote was, hell, it was written about 2 decades prior to that. And when I say written, it was just kind of flimsy when I say that. So it was more, you know, more of a screenplay than it was
okay.
than, you know, structure wise. So that was quickly turned into a comic book, just based on sound advice that, you know, it was a shit um, story in terms of its current structure as a screenplay. So, you know, and it didn't hurt my feelings. I think it made sense. It's like, hey, it's going to be easier to make a comic than it is to film, right?
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so that was the one, like, path of least resistance there dictated it. So I was like, okay, well, let's get it done, man. So we shanghaied Fran Penevic to do the artwork, and Rage was there to kind of help be that man in the middle, bridge, you know, between writer and artist in so many ways, whether it's inks or additional storyboards, what have you. I mean, he was the guy who helped kind of, he could tap my brain and understood what it meant, and then
Right.
translate it across to, you know, other artists, which was great. That's a gift in itself, you know. And that was very helpful in getting that off the ground, and it was very well received. We were scared as hell. We did not know what we were doing. You know, we made this 15-page comic. We showed up at Wizard World. You know, we're at Artist Alley on Thursday, and nobody was at Artist Alley. we're all by ourselves and lonely and miserable with this one damn comic, and nobody's coming by. And I was like, oh man, we dropped $350 and we suck and all this kind of stuff. And then finally somebody went down on it, because I didn't know there's an unwritten rule amongst artists in Artist Alley that you don't show up on Thursdays. Well, shit, we showed up, we were there, and guess what? It was the best thing we could have ever done, because people started to come in, and since, it was, not such a feeding frenzy, trying to get their attention, they came to the table, they checked it out. It was a low price. It was $3 to get the comic book, and hell, zombies were in, and it was, they're like, hey, this is great. It's a great idea. Zombies future versus like G.I. Joe, and, and you got robots and all sorts of shit. So yeah, people took to it, thankfully, rather well. We were stunned. I mean, the first sale, I'll never forget. I ran into the guy at an arcade, and he was wearing the shirt. And he's like, hey, I remember you. He's like, I think I'm the first one that ever bought your comic. And I'm like, you were, man. He's like, oh, okay, this is a weird moment. I'm like, yeah, it is. So, yeah, so I was able to kind of go back and thank him, because I was kind of stunned. I'm like, you want to buy it? I was like, and I remember a friend was with me at the table, and he was so nervous he couldn't stay by the table. So he went out and had a smoke and got high, and I was just there by myself. And so finally, when this guy's like, yeah, I'll try it out, I was just, my jaw dropped. I'm like, you are? And then he came back. He's like, hey, I read it. It was pretty good, man. When is the next one coming out? I'm like, I hadn't
Next
even
one?
thought that far.
I don't know. I feel like there's that level of validation though, when like you sell that first book and like you actually get some good feedback, that it was entertaining. Like, yeah, when's another one? I would have it. I would buy another issue. I mean, it's gotta give you that like jolt in the arm to make you feel like, all right, well, maybe this is something I can do.
Yeah, so I looked at that $3, and back at that time, shit, I mean, we couldn't get cell phone reception with our crappy phone, so we had walkie-talkies. And so I told, a friend didn't want to come. He was nervous. Dude. I don't blame him. We were both just like, we're a mess. And then I told him, and I'm like, hey, I sold one. And he came barreling back. He's like, you did? Let me see. And he's like looking at the $3. And I'm like, yeah, because it was the only thing in our cash drawer, right? And I'm like, yeah, we did it, man. Can you believe it? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, wow, that's incredible. And I'm like, well, we got to sell another one, So, and there you go. That's, the unattractive origin of Tango Comics, built around one comic being Descent of the Dead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it just goes to show you that doesn't matter what it is in life, you gotta have to suck at something before you get good at it. You're gonna
Oh,
have
yeah, exactly. You got to crawl before you can walk, brother.
and yeah, absolutely. You gotta crawl before you can walk. But I mean, you did the episode or the episodes, Lord, you did the issues of Descent of the Dead, and
Yeah.
then you released that into a big trade with additional features, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So we had some added content. We were able to, it's hard to get these comic books done, like I said, when you don't know what you're doing. But we finally got our groove, got a lot more efficient, and then we got the story done, and then compiled it into a trade paperback. And then we're able to kind of go back and add some additional content, some treatment, and some backgrounds. And again, it's a lot of supplemental stuff, but it was good. It helps kind of complete the story too.
Right, right. Well, then, and that wasn't the only comic you had at the time, because at the same time you were doing Descent of the Dead, you also were doing the individual issues of the Infinium, correct?
Yeah, so a year after we released Descent of the Dead, and the funny story with that is that back at that same year at Wizard World, the other artist for the Infinium came into play. He came by our table. He didn't realize we were there. And he came by our table and he's like, hey, what's the idea? Because give you some background. He was kind of pissed. He was like, what are you doing selling this comic? I'm like, what do you mean? What am I doing selling this comic? I haven't seen you in 10 years. And he was like, and now you're giving me crap and giving me guff about, making this comic. Well, it's kind of a little bit of professional jealousy. He's like, hey, when are we going to come back and finish the comic we were working on? Because before this happened, I was collaborating with him to build out a superhero comic called the Infinium. So this was back in like 2000, when this happened. So I had the story, and here we are in 2009. And he, I run into him, and he's giving, busting my chops about that comic book that, we both could not even get off the ground. But, he saw it. He's like, now's the time. And I'm like, the sad part of it was I didn't have the story anymore. I lost it. And I couldn't work on it from memory. And he came back and told me, he's like, I have your story. You made me a hard copy of it. You do realize that? And I was stunned.
Wow. He
And
held
I
on.
was like, you held on to it for 9 years? He's like, yeah, I want to get this done. I'm like, so his determination paid off because we were able to go back. I looked at the story that I'd given back 9 years prior and almost threw up. And I was like, this needs to get reworked. It needs the new treatment. I'm going to rewrite it. So I got stuck on a flight to Cambodia on a mission trip, and I rewrote the thing in a span of like 40 hours.
Wow.
Then came back from there, and we began to build that comic book out. And if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have, it would never have happened. I give him all the credit in the world. I mean, I can't believe he held on to that script. So it was just like holding gold when he presented it to me. And so, yeah, we got that done quickly thereafter. He was anxious to get that rolling. And yeah, our second comic book title, The Infinium, was released in February 2010.
Wow. And the Infinium, I feel, is the one that's the closest to your heart out of all the properties that you put out.
Yeah, I mean, this is my, without a doubt, that's my love letter to, the silver and bronze age of comics. I really, enjoy that era, and this is kind of, the love letter to that era. And it, again, there's some cliches, there's some props to, nods to, those eras, but at the same time, it's like it's looking back but progressing forward. So it's, I want to kind of give you that complicated superhero story. And the Infinium is that. It's about a hero who doesn't want to be a hero at all. He made a wish. The wish came true. It sucks. I want things to go back to normal.
Right.
And sorry, this is what you asked for. Sorry, it didn't turn out the way you wanted. And it's a reflection on life. It's like you want something, then you get it. And it's not quite the way you imagined it, right?
Right.
It's almost like that Christmas gift. You're like, oh, I really want, and it's the anticipation that drives you more than the actual product after a while,
Yeah.
So,
But like it's that old saying, be careful what you wish for, right?
yeah, it is a wish fulfillment, but it's a fucked up wish fulfillment when you think about it. So it's kind of backwards in that sense. So, and it's very hard for me to explain the character because he is a complex character. He wanted something, he got it. Now he's being kind of ungrateful. He was like, well, I didn't ask for this. I'm like, well, yeah, guess what? Life's got strings attached to it.
Yeah.
Deal with it. And he has to adjust. And so, and this is your reluctant superhero in a way. But, the very thing that's attached to him in terms of turning him into a superhero, he despises. It's ruined his life. And he struggles with that psychologically. And
Well, I
here
mean,
he's kind of brought back.
well, that's part of the the hero's journey as well, is that you're choosing to enter or to pass over the threshold, right, into this new and strange world. And I mean, there's got to be a lot of sadness with the idea that once you cross over, once you make that decision, there is no going back. Things
Yeah.
can be as simple as they were before, because the world is more complex and strange than you realize.
Yes, it's far more, is revealed, in about the world itself and how it works and functions. There's a bit of disenchantment with it, without a doubt. And, you know, he leaves one man, comes back another, and he has to kind of find out who he is all over again.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of the journey with the second book, is really, it's an identity crisis. And he's going back and having to re-examine everything that he ever was. And it's, in that journey, he's going to run into some fantastic beings along the way. Because again, you're right, it's a bit of a lonely journey. It is, when you're you've been kind of left behind, if you will. He's a man out of time at this point. Everybody's moved forward. He's been gone for years. You know, it's like he was a nobody, and he's treated like a nobody when he gets back. And like, wow, even, you know, his wife and kid left him behind. And it's just like, where the hell do I go now? You know, what's the whole point of me being here? My motivation for coming back, they're no longer here for me. So this is, you know, it sounds very melancholy because it is, but you know, the whole buildup of this story, it's, you know, it's Disney storytelling, Jimmy. You know, it's like, before I make you laugh, I'm going to make you cry.
Right.
You know, so that's the whole thing, is to kind of draw you in on the character itself. Yeah, he is a hero, and he's a superhero, and he's got a really cool costume, but that's not really what he's all about. So before I even give that to you, I mean, you know, you're going to learn more about the person and what makes him ultimately the real hero before you can put it on.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what's important though, is knowing that character before the heroics take place, right? Having a good perception of what that character is. You get into their head, and then it adds more weight to the choices they make later on, because you know, usually with superheroes, choices have dire consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this one especially. So he comes back, and you know, it's a bit of a spiral staircase effect. So with each chapter, the adversaries start to escalate in terms of what their capabilities are, and profound, until you get to the very ending of this whole thing. And then you're going to see just, you know, what he's up against. And it's, you know, it's, how do I put it without revealing too much? He's facing the mountain finally.
Right.
And it's a scary thought for him, but you know, it's like, well, I've gone this far, you know, can't go back. And it's, you know, like I said, the interesting thing about it is really, as well as the characters, that I'm introducing a whole bunch of other characters along with them. Some are mentors, you know, some are adversaries, some are, you know, there purely for distraction, you know, and
Right.
they're, each one has a role to play as part of the bigger story. But again, each one will have an effect on him in finding his way back. And that's essentially the first buildup of this first book. And the second book carries that forward as well, which we're working on right now.
So I don't know. So for those who aren't familiar with the Infinium character, if you were interested in the first book, I got to tell you, it is a cross between Green Lantern and Mortal Kombat. So you have this character that is zoomed off to this alien world where he's got to battle all these different races from across the universe in this tournament, and you know, the winner gets this mysterious power source, the Infinium, right?
Mhm.
And you know, the entire or the entire first book, which was originally, you had 7 issues that you compiled into a trade paperback, correct?
Yeah, it was originally, it was planned out for 7, then we just double sized the 6. So yeah. So in on then there was that supplemental story that we did with Carlos. So technically it's like 8 issues altogether when you think about it.
Right.
But yeah, it was a lot of content we threw at this whole thing. But yeah, you're right. It's it's a 7-issue book. I'm just kind of fighting in denial as I, you know, it's like, oh yeah, it's only 6. But yeah, we were so fed up with, you know, by the time we reached the 6th issue of either title, we were so fed up, man. We're just like, let's just get this damn thing done, you know. And not that we didn't appreciate it. It's just you're working on it so long, you just need a break, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, and this was the first one, or the first book, I guess, the one that you're currently working on, the second Infinium,
Mhm.
that was that you didn't even bother doing individual issues on. You just were going straight trade paperback with this guy.
Yeah, and it's the fans spoke, and the response was, okay, let's get it in a compiled format, because the biggest concern was waiting 6 to 8 months for the next issue, and that was painful. That was painful for me. It was painful for the audience, and I'm like, nah, screw that. This time we're going to give you 5 or 6 issues compiled into one now, so that you have a sense of completion.
Yeah.
You have a sense of depth. You know, it gives me more, you know, more playground to do some storytelling, and you get to read something in a very contiguous fashion, which is fun. You know, because it's there, it's all in front of you, and you don't have to go back and remember what, you know, where you left off. It's just one continuous stream of thought.
Right, and I know it goes ahead and it removes the biggest obstacle with smaller and indie publishers, is that if you're doing individual issues, if you don't have the distribution abilities that the big three have with Diamond, you can't get them in every comic book store, so it's hard as a fan to be able to get that sense of completion from a storyline, because you might have to wait till you see this guy at a con, a year or two down the line to get that next issue, as opposed to, just being able to get it from a comic book store. So just going the straight trade route, it gives you the ability to condense down one story with a lot of different facets, and you could tell it all at once and people get the entire story right then and there, so they don't have to hunt you down later on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It gets it all there. And then after a while, again, you're not, you peddle multiple issues at a convention, what have you. What you may not realize is sometimes your issues kind of compete with themselves.
Right.
And
Right.
so I want to kind of take that out and say, okay, it's here, it's one solid state of book. It's all compiled together, and it's a lot of fun, getting being able to tell in that story fashion. Yeah, I still got a landline.
Wow, you still have a landline?
Yeah, it
I
doesn't cost nothing. I mean, MetroNet has it, and then just, again, precautionary. I live in a world of cell phones, but every now and then, stuff doesn't work. You're just out of convenience, and I'm using that.
yeah, definitely convenient if it's right there for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's within reach, and then, it's a fallback in case cell phones don't work, what have you. Isn't that weird? Usually it was the other way around. You had the cell phone to supplement, the landline, but now it's the other way around.
Yeah, times are changing. And well, I guess going off of that, then how does I guess what's the big transition from the character that folks could read about in the first book into the second book? Because the second book takes place a few months after the first one, correct? Or is it just pick up right where it left off?
It picks up right where it left off, as a matter of fact. So yeah, it's just it's practically reading one contiguous story. So he's out there in space, contemplating, fighting himself. He's fighting this entity that's within him, saying, "Hey, you need to go here. You need to go back into the cosmos. There's a purpose for you there." And the human side of him is like, "No, I'm not ready for that yet. My motivation to being in this state was, my wife and child, and I'm going back to them." So there's an inner conflict that's there. He's fighting himself. He's, fighting to retain his control over his humanity.
Right.
And so that's the underlying thing, is that there's this tug of war that goes back and forth with it. But yeah, anyways, the long and short of it is that, yeah, it picks up exactly where the last issue left off in the from the omnibus, and carries it straight forward. So yeah, so it starts off in space and then quickly returns back to Earth, where he, again, the self internalization and the exploration, begins.
So I guess when you came back to this property, was there any sort of shift in how you perceived the character, how you wanted to write him?
Yeah, I really don't think, when I look back at the first story, I had an opportunity to really flesh out the character like I wanted to. So it was really for me to kind of make sure I focus on a more character-driven story this time. And this is my attempt at doing that. So the way it reads is going to be a little less, how do I put it, Silver Agey.
Okay.
It's going to be a little more, grounded in, current state situations and so on. But for the most part, again, it kind of deviates from, it is a bit of a departure from the first book in terms of style and storytelling. We got a whole new art team working, on this whole thing. So it's a little more manga-ish in terms of art style. The artist who did this, you can tell he has a kind of a manga upbringing, but he's got really, really clean line work that just dazzled me. And the colorist that is working with him is just outstanding. So these guys are, these guys are professionals. So and it reflects in everything that they do in terms of demeanor, in terms of style, and just in terms of output. And I'm damn proud to showcase that with this time around, because it is a real difference maker. And it reflects, not only the change in art style, but the change in storytelling. And it's going to really grab people. It's got a lot of cool things to it. And like I said, introducing all these new characters alongside this character who, again, in some ways is still kind of brand new. Is going to show a lot more depth. It's going to start showing you a view of the world itself, and what the Tango universe is essentially was intended to be.
Yeah, and that's well, I mean, and that's the other thing is that you want to use this new format, right? The going straight to trades as a
Yeah,
way to feature an expansion of that Tango universe to show other characters to kind of build and well, similar to the way this next book builds it or fills out the character. You want your future projects to expand out this universe and fill out the world.
yeah, absolutely. So there's a cast of characters out there. There's more than one just hero in the world, as you well know. And it's really to kind of flesh them out, give them that opportunity to be shown and, showcased. And then again, have a lot of familiar character sets that can be borrowed upon and be leveraged in telling, a very, cool story, and have a very well evolved world at the same time. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this is really, where we finally cut the cords and are able to kind of set sail finally. And this is our first chance at, in going that avenue. So I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, having it in the trades is, where I want to be too. It's like I want to reward the audience for after all these damn years of waiting and waiting for all those damn floppies to have a book in their hands finally.
Yeah.
So I'm getting ready. If the convention scene ever opens up, I'll be happy to with pride to put it in their hands. I'm like, here you go, the wait's over, man.
Yeah, it's almost like Tango's returning home, if it were.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Well, one
Homecoming,
thing
if you
that
will.
we were talking about, folks, is that, um, you know, comic book creators, a lot of their lifeline has been cut off because of COVID. What a lot of folks depend on to keep these small independent publishers open, their only source of revenue I mean, they're just not allowed to collect on it right now. So one of the things that we need to do as people who enjoy these properties, as people who support the arts, is that we need to support these creators during these times. And you actually have funded this book through a Kickstarter. So tell us a little bit about the Kickstarter and how anybody listening can help with the project.
Yeah, certainly. So this is, as you mentioned, the whole pandemic situation has really fucked things up here in terms of, getting the visibility that we're normally used to. So in some ways we're kind of hitting the reset button, because again, we have to kind of find a whole new audience in order to go forward.
Yeah,
Because you have your convention audience who, frequents a comic book store, and then you have your crowdfunding audience, and, that's a different beast, and sometimes they overlap. But, in this case, this is our first launch on Indiegogo, as a matter of fact. So this is our only means of, selling this comic and distributing it at this point. There are no shows. So this is the only way. And when we say Indiegogo exclusive, it is exclusive. This is the only way to get it.
right.
Probably remain that way for years, right? So given the current situation. So yeah, with that being said, this is our sole means of revenue, and we're gonna, you know, we're going to need all the help we can get in terms of going forward here. So yeah, the outpouring of support is, greatly needed. I won't play that down. Yeah. So, that being said, we just kicked this off like a week or so ago, and the way to support is going to the infinium.com, which will redirect you to our Indiegogo site, and there you can put a pledge in for the book. And if you've never read the first one, that's okay, because we're offering package deals and bundlings where you can get both. So it's a way to get on board. Even if you're familiar with the story, that's great. There's a new opportunity for you, and even if this is brand spanking new, no big deal. There's a way to solve for it. We got both of them made available. If interested.
Now, what other sort of packages have you put together? Because I know that for this one in particular, you went out of your way to have custom action figures made and all sorts of little gifts and goodies.
Yeah, so as part of the incentive, for those who are interested, there's some really cool highly rendered figures that we've created, kind of showcasing some of the main characters that you're going to see in this first volume. And it's kind of a promo piece, and again, kind of it's a bait, to try and get people to, again, buy more than just a comic book. Hey, there's an opportunity to get some of these figurines to put on your desk or on your bookshelf and what have you. And the work that was done just to get those ready took like a half a year in itself. So the artist did some model sheets, constructed those out. We had profiles made. Then we took it over to a guy in Brazil who then rendered these as 3D models. And then we took the 3D models, and there's a guy local here that actually does this for a living. And we created these figures that as a result, and they're all real shiny gold like figures. It's like an Academy Award, man. It's pretty cool looking. If I wasn't so embarrassed, I'd be playing with them myself right now. But it's one of those things that I'm like, wow, they're here, they're real. I can hold, they're in the third dimension now, and it's
They're
kind of
tangible.
cool. Yeah, so it's like, wow. So yeah, anyways, enough of my rambling, but yeah, you can get those figures. You can by just again based on one of the several offerings that we have with respect that's being placed on Indiegogo. You can score one even glows in the dark. Otherwise, yeah, you can get the whole set along with the books. So there's lots of options there depending on how much you want to spend. You can get all that stuff and more. In terms of original artwork and so on. But again, the mainstay obviously is to sell those books and get some readership back in that space. So, but yeah, we want to make sure that first and foremost, either it's digital or in print, that both books are available to people.
And I don't know, getting them in folks' hands is always the hardest part. So, folks, we are getting to the end of our discussion here. And I want to thank Rich one more time for coming on, because he is without a doubt one of the most interesting people that I know. And just to recap, if you are interested in the 7 deadly sins of social media, that's available on Amazon, isn't it, Rich?
Yeah, that's correct. It's still available on Amazon. It's on digital. You can get it for Kindle for people who are still using that. And you can get it in traditional book format as well.
Awesome. So yeah, folks, go to Amazon if you're interested in how to start protecting your data and being responsible cyber citizens. That is the 7 deadly sins of social media. And then, if you are interested in the Descent of the Dead or the original Infinium book, you can go to www.tangocomics.com. And, they have individual issues available. If you just want to get your feet wet, check out what they're doing. And, if you want to go just head deep, you can go ahead and purchase the trade paperbacks for both Descent of the Dead and the original Infinium book. And then, particularly with COVID raging, we need to support our arts, we need to support our creators, and we need to support these independent properties and these independent visions of, just the types of characters and types of ideals that resonated with these creators when they were a kid. So if you want to help, go to www.infinium.com. That's going to redirect you right over to the Indiegogo. And, I've already had a chance to look at a lot of the material that they put out there. They have the cover art. They have pages fully colored. I mean, it isn't just like they're asking you about a potential project to fund, right? They are pretty much done with this puppy, and it's ready to fly out the door. And now is your chance to get in at the ground floor, get it early, and get some of those additional collector items that are going to be offered as part of the packages, which would be those different level figurines and whatnot. So definitely go to www.theinfinium.com. That's going to redirect you to the Indiegogo, and go ahead and place an order for this book. I would recommend going ahead and getting the combo pack if you're unfamiliar with the property, because folks, it reads like one story. So don't waste time. Go right now to www.infinium.com.
There you go. Right now.
Right now, if you're listening to this, I mean, you're listening to this on your computer, you already have a browser window open. Just click that little plus button next to your tab and go where, folks? www.infinium.com and check it out.
There you
Because
go. We take debit, plastic, whatever. Just jump on board, man.
they will take rubles and bullion as well if it's packaged correctly. So,
We'll figure out a way to take Bitcoin too, whatever it takes.
You don't want to get into the Ethereum coin?
No, you're right. I don't. The times are tough, brother. You can take what you can get, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, just to finish up, folks, Rich, want to thank you again for coming on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And, folks, definitely go to either tangocomics.com, infinium.com. Check out the work, because, we all need to support the creation of characters that live up to the values that we aspire to. Good night, folks.